Good afternoon, everybody. I'm HAO. You guys have heard from me enough times. Today we have three other new guests on the panel, so please take a seat. Two of us are joining us as judges. They're also startup founders, and our third guest is Son, founder and CEO of DatBike. How many of you have seen DatBike on the road? Okay, most of everyone in the room, that's good. Your sales are increasing, which is the point of today's panel. ESG, sustainability is all good kind of stuff. And I'll admit myself, a number of years back, as a younger person, my thinking about these topics would be that it's for nonprofits or for people that really believe in these things, but it's not necessarily a sustainable business. Now, that's changed, obviously. There's a lot of commercial activity, money being created and value being created because of this industry. And we're going to hear from three startup leaders about how they see about making money, but also innovating in the space. So first question, over to Hugh. I'll just start, well, actually intros from everybody. How about 10, 20-second intros, starting with you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks a lot, HAO, and the rest of the organizing team to making such an amazing event on sustainability and climate change. My name is Hugh, and I am the CEO of CarbonFarm Technology, and we are doing a MRV management reportings and verifying platform for carbon credit to reduce the methane emissions from the rice cultivations, which I can go a bit deeper later on.
Hey, hello everybody. My name is Aaron. I'm the founder and CEO of DatBike. We just make the best electric motorbikes and very recently scooters for Vietnam, South Asia. And it is our goal to convert 250 million people who are using gasoline two-wheelers every day now in South Asia to electric. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is MARINA TRAN-VU and I'm the founder and CEO of EQUO. EQUO is a sustainable brand that provides 100% plastic-free alternatives for forks, knives, spoons, or straws made out of things like coconut, sugarcane, and rice.
All right, so all three have been part of a company that have gone on to raise, in some cases, millions, if not tens of millions, Son? I don't know. So my first question is, how do you convince investors to work with a business that historically has not been either attractive from a financial point of view, or there just hasn't been a record of successful outcomes yet? So why don't we just start with Marina, since you have the microphone, and move over down. So over to you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and one of the biggest misconceptions people have, is that sustainability needs to be the #1 benefit that you have to communicate out. And when you do that, a lot of investors, a lot of people don't really understand it. They see that sustainability is important, but may not be profitable. So you must have another quality for your product, whether it's tech or not, that is standout, basically. So it could be design, it can be taste, it could be whatever quality, but it has to go that first and then sustainability second. And then I think if you do that, then people will see the profitability, they will see the vision of what you're trying to build rather than just as a social enterprise.
Yeah, how did you first work with your investors, some of which never invested into sustainability related companies?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Marina here. I think sustainability is a theme, but you know, it is to distinguish you know, between a sustainable company versus like a traditional company. We are in the business of replacing something that's already there with something else that's more sustainable, which is like going from gasoline to electric. So for us, there's nothing more to like prove ourselves outside of a very good product. And even our first investor were actually my colleagues in the US. And at the time, in order to convince even the people who have worked with me for such a long time, I still needed to have a very good product. And some of them bought the bikes I built in the US, the prototypes, and they decided to invest. So I think a very good product, at least in our industry, a very good product is what we need. Yeah.
Yeah, second that we talk about building a business. So the first thing is still a business. On the other hand, linking back into the topic of sustainability or climate change, then it actually could be a problems to solve, right? So any business, is basically provide solution to a problem. And if you positions climate change and sustainability as a problem need to be solved, then you can, tell a very good story coming out of that. Now, how to pitch it to the investor then is really depending on, which is the investor and geographic you're talking about. I'm very lucky that CarbonFarm based in France, in Europe, when people we don't have to talk much about really climate change as a problem. Everybody understand it. But in the case of Vietnam or Southeast Asia, it's still relatively a new concept. That means that the way that you tell the story need to be a little bit more nuances. You need to find a way to convey the message about profitability, at the same time gear back into the story of impact investment.
Cool. I want to share a quick story of Vietcetera related to sustainability before I ask the next question, so pay attention. So at Vietcetera, a lot of people ask us, why do we create the content that we make? It has a lot to do with the values of a company. So in our case, we like to publish content that's positive, inspiring, or helpful. So it has to be one of those three core values. Now, when it comes to sustainability, of course it does, but how do we actually choose which topics? And in our case, we chose sustainability because one, our audience was demanding it, but also second, our customers were demanding it. And we saw an opportunity to make it sustainable in itself, not only create content to feel positive, but also to make money. So that's my next question. I think for you guys, all upstart companies, like if I think about all of the categories that you're doing, I think of the traditional business first when it comes to mass market adoption, not necessarily what you're doing today. Hopefully that'll change. So my question is, to provide for that greener tomorrow, do we need to change our behavior as consumers, or do we need to pressure brands and companies to change more? So I think it's coming from you guys. You're initiating this change. Should it be more coming from you, or how do we talk to consumers to make that change happen? So I'll start with you and then go down.
Very tough questions about the consumer change in terms of behaviors. First of all, CarbonFarm is not a consumer-facing business. We actually are B2B, and we're actually operating a very nascent market in carbon market. On the other hand, go back into the topic of sustainability and climate change. Go back to the previous panel. I think it touched on a very critical challenge. Is actually climate change is not about the climate. It's actually about the mindset and the people that are actually operating, right? So if we own kind of, change one bit by bit, then it's actually can shift the way things around. Now, the questions you ask is actually who's going to be that agent to bring the change, right? Each of us will have a play in it, including the corporates, the sponsors, the government, and the consumers. In the Western societies, they talk a lot and push a lot of the pressure back into the consumers. Think about the recycle campaigns that has been around in the West a lot, pushing a lot of plastic recycling back to the consumers. But actually the one that actually make that become a problem is actually corporates. So there has to be some corporate responsibility come into place. So I do think that this has to be a change come from the ecosystem by itself, both in terms of consumers, like the audience here, or the entrepreneurs, like we have it here, and apparently, including the government and the corporates. There has to be a coordination in the ecosystem to make it work.
And so over to you, because your strategy for acquiring customers, it's not just through the sustainability part. I see the orange designs of the bike. They stand out. They look cool. Yeah. So you're approaching it from a lot of different angles, but love to hear from you.
Yeah. So, I can only share my view from a business side of thing. I do believe that. So first, we are like I said, in the business to replace something else that's already there with something else that that is more sustainable. And I think my formula for doing this is very simple. I guess this is one of the reasons why investors decided to invest in that bike as well. So to answer your previous question, our formula to make a very good product to convince people to switch. I think that's very simple. So at first, first the product need to be able to do what it's supposed to do. So that is like the most important thing, because if you look at the industry before that bike, there were like some electric brand, probably a lot of use here use electric bicycle to go to school during high school. That's what I did as well. But these vehicles are not meant for like adult people in Vietnam to use. They're mainly for high school students who can't get a driver license because they are lacking of like power, range, and charging time and all that, right? So for us, so we just make a very good bike, that can match gasoline motorbike in terms of power and range, and charge really fast as well, right? So that's the first thing. I mean, the product need to be able to do what it's supposed to do. That's otherwise people would not switch, right? And the second part is like a trade-off between price and being green, right? Because at first, because technology may not be available, right now to make an electric, our case again, to be the same as gasoline in terms of performance, and also have very low price. So electric is obviously like higher price, but I think like from a consumer perspective, you think about the consumers as like a gradient. Like some people will value being sustainable more, so they are willing to pay more in order to get that, right? But the key thing here is that you have to make a product that can provide the performance that it's supposed to do. And then the second step is to try to reduce the price, because different people will value, sustainability, differently. Some people value it more, some people value it less, right? So, so the more you can reduce the price, the more you can convince on people to switch. If that makes sense.
How many of you are considering getting a DAT bike? Okay, about 5-10 people.
Yeah.
So what's your pitch to this audience? Because I think most people here are like probably white collar professionals. They probably make a bit more money than the average Vietnamese person. They obviously live in Saigon. Yeah. What's your pitch to them?
Okay, so like assuming that everything else is equal, assuming that we have all these like branding is the same as like Honda, or like reliability is one part of performance for sure. Reputation is one part of what we call like what the product is supposed to do. Reliability, performance, reputation, resale values. I think a lot of the people here may be affected by that. But assuming that we have everything else in the first equation, that the product is supposed to can do what it's supposed to do. My take on here, like very few hands raised, was that we still sell the bike at the price that is higher than what people here value in terms of sustainability.
Son, if you had a bike here, people could try it out, but it's not.
So that, yeah, I mean, so that means that my assumption about the first equation is incorrect, because probably a lot of people here don't know about that bike yet, or or even like not in the market to buy a bike yet, right? So, but the point, yeah. So, but like coming back to your question, I think this is what a business need to do. Need to provide the product that's supposed to do that can do what it's supposed to do, and gradually try to reduce the price. And like the government could help. With like policies, pressure from like pressure internationally can come in and help, and all that, because this is like I would say it's like a three-way chicken and egg problem between the business, the consumer, and the government, right? Three-way chicken egg problem. So we just, like from our perspective, we just try to do what we do best as a business, and the rest will come. That makes sense.
Great question, Marina. So over to you. I remember the first time I had a kind of wow interaction with kind of the solution that your company is providing. This was a different company, I think, a long time ago, before EQUO even existed. Was when Starbucks they did like this. They took over the mall, Estella Place, I think, and they built this like 100,000 straw exhibition. And their idea was to announce like, oh, hey, we're abandoning straws, either like no straws at all or a different solution. I forget what it was exactly. But same question over you. When people do those, or brands do those kind of things, they're trying to inspire consumers, obviously, but it's really forced by the corporation to make it happen. How do you see it in recent times?
Yeah, I think for myself, it's I have a very specific point of view, which is it is up to the business to influence consumers. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Devil Wears Prada, but yeah, a small portion inside that movie, they said that the blue sweater that you're wearing right now, you didn't choose. There are a couple people in a certain room, they got together, they did a bunch of research and testing, and that blue sweater that you picked, you didn't actually pick. Someone picked it for you. And they said it is something that you needed. I feel that's the same thing with sustainability. Starbucks, all these companies, it is their responsibility to provide products that consumers will adopt. Not consumers want, consumers will adopt. What they want and what they actually adopt are kind of different. And if a consumer doesn't actually get what they want, they will actually go and create it themselves, like us on the stage. So I really actually do believe a lot of the adoption and products and stuff, it's up to the businesses to come up with those solutions for everyone else. Not really the government, they regulate, but really the businesses.
You're saying the quiet part out loud. That's great. Yeah. Thank you. I agree. There you go. So my next question is, we have a room full of people that are interested in innovating either on a personal level or getting involved in a business, either as a founder or potentially even joining a company leading green innovation. But they also need to learn how to collaborate with the people in power or with the money who don't know what they don't know, or maybe they're just against it. So why don't I just start with Son here and then HIEU, and I'll go back to Marina. So Son, question over you. You probably, like, for example, I know here in Vietnam, a lot of apartment buildings are going up. And a lot of those apartment buildings happen to be owned by companies that may not like that bike or may not understand that bike. And you go to them and being like, hey, I need to install a charger. And they're kind of like, no, go away. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I guess like this same like question can apply to like policymaker as well. Not just like apartment builder, but also like policymaker. Whether at like apartmental level or at like city level or national level as well, right? My take on this is that for businesses like us, is it a hard problem to solve for sure. I personally don't want to solve that yet, if that makes sense, because I like, because we have enough demand that that is like way beyond our production capacity, right? Way beyond our supply capacity. So like I kind of want to imagine that if this problem was solved, then there'll be like a lot more competitions for us, if that makes sense. For example, if the government tomorrow decided that they would want everybody to move to electric, I don't think like the day after that bike would probably like die. To be very transparent. So I know it's like a better thing for the world, but like from like a selfish business perspective, I think so. We are such a small boat, like in the ocean. If the very big wind comes, then like that, the boat just die. But if we were a very big ship, then we could take advantage of the wind and move very fast. And right now we are so small that I think we have to try to grow very fast to become very big. And I think we, from my industry, I think we have an opportunity window of about 2 years before. Because like all the signs already there, the government's already like very determined to move toward electric. They join COP26 and all that, right? So I would say 2 years for us to grow to be very fast. Because if they turn on the switch tomorrow, then all the guys, Honda, Yamaha, all these like Chinese guys will come and we just die. If that makes sense. But once I'm big enough, I try to move the wind. But we were so small to do that. Yeah.
All right, guys. So if you're considering a DAT bike, get one. It'll help him save his company, survive, go long. Thank you, Son. Over to you, HIEU. Your business in particular, B2B. People talk about things like greenwashing. They talk about doing it because somebody's forcing them to. Companies, I think, by nature, are kind of libertarian, right? They like to obviously generate a profit, not being told what to do. at a regulation level, but then again, that's what determines a lot of their future. So we'd love to hear from you. How can these next generation of innovators learn how to collaborate with the higher ups? Should it be in a more aggressive way, in a more working together way? We'd love your idea on that.
Well, first of all, it's not just climate or sustainability business that need to collaborate with different stakeholders like the governments or the big corporates. Every other business has to. And the things about that, in my opinion, is always about aligning the incentive and incentive mechanisms. The governments have certain needs they need to do. The business similarly, as well as the customers. If we can find a way to harmonize and distribute the incentive in a very sustainable way, then you have a niche point and niche angle getting to the market. In the case of CarbonFarm, then the needs is coming from the government, that the government also need to have more transparency about the carbon market. The clients, they also need to prove about what is actually about greenwashing, as you mentioned, because the case about climate change is that a lot of this is actually about the data. We don't know what is true. And then when we can, for CarbonFarm, then we tap into that angle, the needs from each of that stakeholder to provide solution in terms of transparency. Now, apparently, it's working with, different big players like the government and corporates. There's a lot of challenge. Then it's really come down into whether the solutions that the startup can provide can solve the real problem that they have, or is only on the surface level. And if you go to fundamental of the problem solving with the governments or the corporates, then you can have the case studies for them.
Yes, good answer there. Thank you. Marina, over to you. You work with a lot of businesses like hotels. This one would be a great client if you can get Marriott.
They would.
They're probably using thousands per day, if not more than that. How do you work with those stakeholders who have? It was one of us before, or maybe offline. We were talking about vendor codes, like these corporates. You have to be an approved vendor, and that takes years of relationship building. Or you're friends with procurement, or friends with the CEO, and they can fast track you through procurement. So it's not even about the solution. Sometimes it's about like relationships and stuff like that. How does a small business like yours, a startup, who's trying to sell into these big corporations, manage to convince those legacy kind of systems and gatekeepers?
Yeah, great question. So for us, when we're trying to deal with customers who've never seen or heard of us before, what we try to do is delight them in a way that they've never been approached before. So again, we sell straws, forks, knives, and spoons, right? But when you look at that, it's probably the most boring product you could imagine. Who cares about what straw you use? But if you say, like, for example, the straw is used by Prada, which was one of our customers, is used by Prada at their fashion shows because they really care about sustainability and they're a leader in the fashion industry. When it comes to sustainability, then you catch their attention. So it's all about kind of approaching it in a different way. It's not just a straw. It's not just the lowest cost product. It's something that, again, is fashion forward, industry leading. That's how you kind of capture that attention and bypass the old mentality of purchasing products that people traditionally don't care about.
Okay, very good. I think this is my last question before I open it to the audience. What core skills, or I guess you could say characteristics, do entrepreneurs or operators working in sustainability need to have? I think resilience is one, just having people say no constantly or not understand. But what are those core skills or characteristics? I'll start with you over here. What makes you three crazy enough to do what you do? Be on a very small boat in a very windy ocean.
Great question, because I'm trying to distinguish between climate tech or sustainability versus other type of entrepreneur, but I really don't think there's much of a difference. In the end of the day, it's still about problem solving. And as I said earlier, if you position climate as a problem, then you can find solution for it. And so as an entrepreneur, first of all, entrepreneurship is hard. Let's say it's very tough to do. It takes a lot of grit. So grit is a word that I want to use as a very core value an entrepreneur needs to have.
All right, and Son, over to you.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Anil here. I think like for me, I just don't think there's much difference between an entrepreneur who can be successful with sustainability businesses versus like just like startup in general. Like I mean, there's like a lot of words that people like to put out. So I'm trying to be original here. Okay, so I try to maybe like to reflect on myself. I've received a lot of feedback about my like good attributes and like bad attribute, and like it all comes down to being very impatient. I'm a very impatient person. Like when I see a problem, I kind of like try really hard to like solve it, and can't wait for other people to like solve it. Sometimes it's like a good thing, it make things happen. But that tend to put me into like very narrow vision sometimes. Like focus too much on short-term problem and like giving away long-term probability of like being successful, right? But yeah, very impatient. He's maybe like what distinguished me away from from like a lot of people. I think, yeah.
Very good answer. Marina, over to you.
Yeah, I would say there's two skills that you would require that are quite different as a sustainable entrepreneur. The first would be a sense of realism. And by this, I mean, kind of going back to the very first question, is like a sense of realism that not everyone cares about sustainability. Sustainability, again, is not number one on everyone's list. Taste, quality, design is number one. If your product tastes terrible, but it's all fully 100% organic, sourced from, your backyard, no one's going to care. So a sense of realism and understanding that, I think, is very key to be successful in sustainability. The second is a sense of excitement. I say this because sustainability is actually quite overplayed as a word. It's overplayed as something you should care about. So bringing a different sense of excitement to the sustainability category from a different angle. It doesn't always have to be like the planet is dying in 2 years, this is why you should care. It can come from a positive perspective. It can come from, well, this person really likes sustainable, shoes because it's super comfortable, and you know what? You can throw it in your backyard and it's made of banana peels. Bring a different level of excitement to sustainability and that'll make you stand out.
I love the realistic answer. Round of applause for Marina there. Yeah, the whole realistic thing, I think here we're in a room of about 100-something people, and some of us probably have some sort of interest, hopefully, in this topic. But the reality is most people don't. And that's going to take some time. And what channels can you guys work in the meantime to create value? And sometimes that means being realistic and knowing where to pick your battles and where to sell and where to win and succeed. So great answer from Marina and from all three of you. Thank you so much. That wraps up today's panel, but I'm going to actually open it for questions. Do we have anyone? We have Kang over there in the back. Actually, Kang was just messaging me about another a pitching thing, so he's probably very curious. Anyways, Kang, please.
Yes. Hello, I would like to have a questions for Marina TRAN-VU. So when I first know about your brand, EQUO, I'm very impressed about the visual identity of EQUO because it's very young, vibrant, close to the young generation, and somehow it makes me assume that the price is gonna be affordable, not so expensive like I used to hear about the Green Life product. And the special thing when I show EQUO to some of my friends, some of my circle, especially people in F&B, they also have that mindset, thinking like me, like, oh, this brand is look very young, so maybe it's not expensive, and they take a note about this brand. So my question is that, so I don't know, is that something that you intend to build your design at first to have an innovation in people mindset about the eco brands, or simply because you are the founder and that's your personal favorite style and you adapt to your brand and somehow it matched with the young generation concept idea? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. 100% EQUO's brand and design was intentional. The reason why, and for those of you guys who haven't seen it, we use a lot of orange and purples and greens in our packaging, pinks. The reason why we did that was because everything at that time in the straw category or sustainability category was brown or green or maybe white, an off gray. It was quite dull because people associated those colors with sustainability. But what that did was it made everyone look the same, and no one could find the straw category. So for us, we said we wanted to make sure we stood out, and we actually wanted people's eyes to go directly to the straw category. So we said we're going to build the best looking brand in the straw fork category because no one can name right now a straw or fork brand. Once they see us, they'll remember the name. Then we can be the brand of choice within this category. So that's the reason why we developed it.
I feel like Son could have said the same exact thing. Is that right, Son? Maybe a quick comment from you about that?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of have similar approach with Marina here. I mean, we purposely pick orange because like there's not a lot of bikes on the street right now have that color, and we really try to stand out, not just with color but also with design. Our hypothesis when we first moved back to Vietnam was, like if we make a very high performance bike and sell it at a somewhat affordable price, people would buy it anyway, regardless of like design and or utility features. But we really have to stand out. We can't just make a Honda Vision and sell that because nobody would know about us. Yeah.
Very good. That wraps up today's panel, guys. We're out of time. Thank you so much to our three esteemed speakers for sharing their insights. Thank you so much.